Greetings and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Maggie Cavanaugh, and today I have with me Adam and Dana. Now, they are very, very special to me. I've known them for many years. They're an amazing couple with a beautiful son and a child on the way. But something that they do in their spare time is garden, chickens, and bees. And that's just a little snippet of what they do. Obviously, they do a lot of other things, but they are passionate about homesteading where they're at. And you might be thinking, well, how many acres do they have? You don't have to have a lot of space. And that's the purpose of this broadcast, is to let you know that we can grow together. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And they are making the best of their space on their little small, I call it an urban homestead, because they're not like on this massive type of acreage, but they've got an amazing backyard that I love to hang out in. But today I have them on the broadcast. Welcome, Adam and Dana.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I am certainly proud to have you guys on here because you guys are extended family. Adam's mama has been one of my besties since I came to Tennessee. And every time I go to their house, I'm always encouraged because they've done something neat. Adam's he's one of those guys that knows how to do everything. And I mean everything, cars, houses, building. All you got to do is just say, this is what I need. And he figures it out. So they have done an amazing job in their not their bathroom, their back room, their backyard. I started to say their bathroom, but you've done a good job remodeling the bathroom too, Adam. But in their backyard, they started out with the gardening first. Was that right, Dana?
Yeah, let's see. We had a garden a couple of years ago, our first garden. That was kind of what got things going. We enjoyed just the first fruits of that garden, thought this is something we want to grow in. It was really last year that we got a little more serious about it.
You got really serious, and you added those cute little chickens. Tell us about that journey and why you did that.
We really just wanted to have some eggs coming in and just check out and see what it would be like to raise a little bit of livestock on a little bit of land that we have, because we're on less than an acre lot. And we just really wanted to bring in about 6 chickens and see how we can manage those.
So have they been producing well?
Yes, they started off, we raised them from chicks, and they started off in a few months and started producing 5 to 6 eggs a day. And they've been doing that ever since.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Now, this has got to be a lot of fun. Dana, I know you're very involved in your son's life, and Finn is growing up in this environment of homesteading, so to speak. Does he like the chickens?
Oh, he loves the chickens, and Adam has had a huge hand in just helping him learn to appreciate them. We definitely do not treat them as pets. They do not have names. And we were really intentional about that. We didn't want him having some kind of connection to our backyard chickens. So we just really wanted to have, especially as things are going the direction they're going nowadays, and really just as a lifestyle, we'd like to incorporate just a little at a time, more sustainable living, methods and approaches to what we're doing, and just having some eggs from your own backyard. I mean, it's been really nice not to have to buy your eggs. But Finnegan, what he loves to do, Adam always invites him to go out in the morning with him to go, bring in to go fetch the eggs. Early on, he really enjoyed feeding them, and when he was maybe even like 2, like last year we just got them. So when he was still like 3.5, he loved chasing them around the backyard and just being a boy. We make sure that he's being kind to them. We're kind to our chickens, but he loves just chasing them around, helping feed them, and we like knowing that he's getting exposed to just that little bit of kind of sustainable, a little bit country living. Plenty of our life is very cityfied, and we have all the Amazon deliveries like everyone else, but we've enjoyed incorporating a little bit here and there where we can for Finnegan to learn at such an early age what that's like.
I love that because it's so important that we do teach the next generation. I know that you're passionate about that, imparting to them skill sets so that they'll have them. And so many people today don't realize just how unstable our food source is. So starting with gardening is something that we all can do. And people tell me all the time, well, I don't have any space. Listen, you can be in an apartment and have you a nice little patio of garden stuff, or whatever space that you have to start somewhere. And so whenever you guys had the idea to get the chickens, are they mostly just for the eggs, or do you plan on raising them for meat?
I think long term we'd like to get into meat, a meat source for the chickens. but initially it was primarily for the eggs, just setting up and making sure we had enough time and resources to manage them as they are.
And the kind of chickens that we have, we really chose those who are known to lay the most eggs in a year. And a lot of people probably know this, but the older the chickens get, they're really not good for cooking. So their meat gets tough the older they get. That's not really the route you want to go. So one day we might be intentional about that, but right now we're happy with just the eggs. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you didn't give them names, because I have, I have this whole emotional issue. I could easily become a vegetarian, just super easy, because I love animals. I pass the cows by my house every day. And I always think of them when I'm having a harder time eating meat lately. I don't know why. It's just, if you get attached to the animals, that's what will happen. We also have, actually we have 25 now, eggs, or 25 chickens laying eggs. And because for a while ours quit laying completely, and I had to buy eggs at the grocery store. I was panic struck. And then we got over that hump after we got a whole nother flock of them. So now we're doing it for the same reasons as you. And there's so many things you can do to preserve them now. Go ahead, Dana.
Well, you mentioned something about passing, knowledge to the next generation. And of course, we would love to say, oh yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. That is our heart's desire, but we are learning everything along the way. I mean, at least I can speak for I don't know anything about this from the get-go. So we're looking everything up. We're visiting friends who are into the same things. We're trying to just learn a little bit as we go, because these are not things I grew up knowing about. And my parents, they knew a little bit more about it, and my grandparents definitely knew more about it, but it's already getting lost. And we already are seeing with some of the current events in society, just we need some of these skills. We need to have a revival of knowledge of these skills. So turn of the year, last year, I remember looking at Adam one day. This kind of gets more into the spiritual side of things, but I remember looking at him and saying, how are we raising Finn up to stand in the last days? And for me, it wasn't about the tangible things of backyard sustainable living. It wasn't about eggs and gardening, but it was about how are we instilling in him, how to stand in the middle of spiritual warfare that he's going to live through, and to be everything that God has called him to be, because God's not surprised that he has been born in this time. But how are we fulfilling our role as his parents intentionally to prepare him for all that he's going to experience in his life, and the doors the Lord's going to open for him to walk in. And part of that, I think, is this desire to have these skills and for us to learn and bring him along. Like, last night I was just making salsa it's the first time I've ever made salsa from my garden things. 2 little jars of salsa, they're sitting in the fridge. I'm really proud of them. But he wanted to help me get the tomatoes out of the boiling water and into the ice bath as we were getting ready to skin them and things like that. And he wanted to do that, because I had to be really careful and help him do that without getting burned. But all those little things that take all the little extra time, I want him right there with me doing those things. I want him interested in it and not to shoo him away so I can get it done faster and easier. I want him to come into that. And Adam's really great about that with all of his projects that you mentioned, whether it's building or doing mechanical work, or I put my hand right in front of your face, or all of those things. He invites him into that. So that's kind of how we approach that, with trying to pass those things on to the next generation.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful, because the Word of God tells us to train them up in the way they should go. When they're old, they don't depart from it. And so many kids today, I know I didn't have those skills. Look, when I got married, I didn't even know how to cook. I mean, my cooking was like reading the instructions on the box of a hamburger helper and screwing that up. Okay. I'm just saying. So that's, I love that you said that we're not experts at this, because I'm not either. And the reason that I do this broadcast is to make people understand that if we can do it, you guys can do it too. It's just a matter of gaining the skills and passing them on. And do we do 100% of it really good? No, I don't think any gardener does. Some of the top gardeners that I follow, they talk about their mistakes and then we learn from it. But together we do better, and sharing in community. And last year, whenever I went to the grocery store, we were in Indianapolis, Indiana, whenever the big grocery store rush took place with COVID. And when I walked into that grocery store and them shelves were empty, I was not liking what I seen. And we had done some gardening in the past, but we stepped it up. Like y'all said, each year we're doing something else to add something more. This year we added ducks, and they are super fun, super duper fun.
Yeah. Our next goal are really, you know, we've got the chickens established, and we'd be okay with expanding that little flock, having a few more, bringing some baby chicks on soon. Probably will do that this coming spring. And the garden is looking good. We'd love to keep just growing a bed or so a year, but we really are ready to try to start something with a greenhouse, something where throughout the year we have certain vegetables and certain herbs and certain medicinal remedies that we can just always go out to the greenhouse and grab. That would be the next big win.
I love that. And I love that you said medicinals, because food is medicine. And there are so many different beneficial things that come from growing herbs. And just like Dana, you know, we're just going through this. What we don't know, Google knows. And what Google doesn't know, we'll find on YouTube. Somehow out there, someone has done something we're wanting to learn. And so if you're thinking to yourself, I can't do that because I don't know how, it's okay. You start where you're at. If you're thinking that I can't do that because I don't have the land, it's okay. Start where you're at. Anything you do is better than nothing. So it's super important that you take an initiative to become more self-sustainable. Something I did, Dana, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I did dry canning. Are you familiar with that?
No.
I did that for the first time last year, and I've got like a stockpile of beans and pasta. And what else did I do? Flour, because all of that stuff can cause you to have moths, and it can go rancid, go bad, and so forth. And it was a technique of canning that you do in the oven. And so I was able to seal and secure so that all that, any type of eggs are killed and destroyed, because it just grosses me out, the whole thought of, you know, pantry moth. I'm sorry, what?
We'll have to try that. That sounds really interesting. And definitely, you know, just those kind of shelf stable things we take for granted, they can go bad for different reasons that you described. So having another way to preserve them, that's good. Good insight.
And that's the purpose of this broadcast, as well as other broadcasts, is to say, hey, there is something that you can do. Maybe you don't have a lot of kitchen space and you're thinking, what can I do? Clear out some shelves in your closet, do you some canning, get you some supplies on hand. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from your garden. I know plenty of people that do canning that'll get a sale at, you know, Publix or Aldi's or wherever they shop, and stock up and have your food prepared. We're talking about being more self-sufficient and less reliant on the system. And I love that you mentioned where we see society going, because to be honest, there's some serious uncertainty. So the more we can do on the front end, it will reduce your stress in preparing for the things coming down the pike. So something you all did that I aspire to do someday, but I can't see me doing it because I don't think I'm brave enough to do it. Okay. You all went full in with the bees. Okay, so what made you decide to do bees? And I've got a clip. I've got about a 5-minute video that I want you guys, we're going to show in a few moments. I want you guys to see when the bees arrived at their house. It was so fun to watch. What made you all want to do bees?
Dana wanted fresh honey. And so we just went for it.
I honestly was about to look at him and say, do you remember why we started that? He says it's because I wanted fresh honey. So maybe that was all it was. You know, but knowing we wanted fresh honey, we're using honey for elderberry, we're using honey just for, you know, allergy remedies, and just trying to incorporate that more, and never quite feeling like it was hitting the bar of expectation, because it wasn't from right here, like in our neighborhood with our allergens. You know, we wanted it to be right here. And the first thing we really did was look around to see who could teach us something about it. And actually came to a couple of good contacts that way. And one of our contacts that's been kind enough to share with us his journey is Joe Carr, and he's wrapping up his first major harvest of more than 700 pounds of honey from his first harvest season.
What?
From his first,
that's incredible.
He's been at it a year, so I think we picked a pretty good mentor. He's he's showing us some things along the way. We just have 2 hives, you know, but he was out there catching hives all year. He has about 15 of them, and so we're gleaning from him. You know, he's a good local Christian leader that was willing to have us out and show us how you know, what he's learned, and then also the folks at Maple Bend Bee Supply. They were great about just hooking us up with their equipment and kind of showing us what to do first and then what to do next, and not getting too far ahead. that was their big encouragement. And I think that's a good encouragement for everybody. Like you're talking about, Maggie, just maybe you don't know where to start and just do the first thing. One example, you talked about looking back at when things don't go so well. You know, just harvested our onions. We just grew onions for the first time. And I'm really wishing I had harvested them like 3 weeks ago, because the rain has come in and has settled in. And when I was like, oh, I need to harvest these, now they're kind of, they were wet. You need to harvest them when they're dry. And I'm like, oh, in retrospect, I should look ahead to the weather and pick a good span where it's been dry and where they'll stay dry. So we may have lost a few, but it was a good learning experience. And, you know, I'm going to salvage what I can salvage. But back to the bees, it'll be what we really are excited, what I'm excited about with that, I think you are too, is next year when we do have the opportunity to start harvesting some honey, setting Finnegan up, again, back to parenting and passing it on to the next generation, setting him up with like a little roadside stand and letting him sell some honey and maybe upsell the eggs, you know, just to the neighbors, and just have a little, maybe it won't be a lemonade stand, but it'll be some kind of golden liquid from our bees with some honey. So we'll have him a little fun entrepreneurial adventure ahead.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because, you know, children learn from experience, and those that have had the entrepreneurial experience of doing a lemonade stand or selling crafts or do things like that, they become real positive attitude when it comes to the workforce, whatever they do, whether they become an entrepreneur themselves, whatever the case may be, they gain additional skills they normally would not have. So that is absolutely beautiful. And it can turn into a little family business. I'm just saying, you know, so we'll be interviewing, you all be watching, we'll be interviewing Finn in a couple of years on his strategies for selling lemonade and honey.
Right. And he, like, I don't know where he gets it from, either of us. He's a talker. So he'll be up for that interview when you're ready.
Oh, he is absolutely adorable. If you guys do not personally know them, they have the most amazing son. I love him. And he has heard his grandma call me, I guess with Siri, going, hey, call Maggie. And it'll say, calling Maggie Kavanaugh. So now every time I see him, he says, hello, Maggie Kavanaugh. You know, he says such a good, most people butcher my name, but Finn's got it down. Such an amazing boy. Well, I want to show you guys a clip from a Facebook Live that they did a couple months back on the arrival of the bees. So take a look at this. It is so much fun. I absolutely love it. We'll be right back with you after this clip.
Okay, neither one of us have ever been around this many bees in our life. Well, except for when we were over there at Joe's place.
Yeah, they just weren't swarming like around like this.
So we're getting our 2 hives set up. Can you understand how this one? This is our second one. Show how this started.
Yep. So with this one,
we don't know what we're doing
pretty
yet.
easy. If I can get this thing set. No, it's so slide it this way to actually get to our queen, which I made a nice little separate container for the queen and the food. And then this in here is our queen box. And she has a white dot on the back of her neck.
So bright, I can't see where the camera is going.
And then there's a piece of candy in this side of it. And then we take a screw and pull the cork out of the candy side, so that eventually they will actually eat through this candy to release the queen into the hive box. And then what they showed us was basically take the screw in the queen box and attach the screw or nail or whatever you got to that so you can put it inside the hive box. So you see? She's still in there. And then we go over and go to our hive box. And we've got it separated since we've got an 8-frame box. Got it separated, and we drop her in right there. And then kind of squeeze the frames around her. So that the guy, Dave at Maple Band Bee Supply, said the queen is
nice and comfortable and contained. Let me take the rest of this hive,
Okay.
and Dana is going to spray it down.
Spray you. No, like that way. Yeah.
Dana is going to spray it down with sugar water. You're going to spray it down with sugar water. And again, Dave at Maple Bend said to be liberal with it. It gives them something to do, something to clean off. And
oh wow, they're all clumped up pretty good already. Let's try that. See that we'll knock them down once on the ground.
and then we'll knock them down on the ground a couple times.
Oh, I get them.
Take out this wonderful food box here. Set it down. Now we've got a whole mess of bees in there ready to be moved over to their hive. What we do is we will dump them over and start kind of tapping them out. And he said, shake it back and forth. And you see a whole mess of bees down there getting, basically they'll surround the queen and they get into their hive. And so we'll take and tap this again. And then we'll do it again. So we get the majority of these bees out of here so that they can protect their queen. Start building brood.
Okay,
And then we'll set this one over there. Then we will slide on our food box.
We gotta make some more food. We don't have enough food.
Yeah, we gotta make some more sugar water, but then we'll pour in all the sugar water there so that they got something to eat right now. We'll put on the wood frame for the top.
You already put the string on the bottom, right? So they would think that their bottom was falling out.
Yeah. So there's got a whiteboard on the bottom where they don't think their hive is too big for them to contain or control or be.
Is it okay if there are bees inside there?
Yeah. Because there's a little notch in there, but they can get out.
Oh, okay.
And that's basically.
Now we're gonna leave these here so they can make their way home.
Yep, we're gonna leave those so they kind of clear out of there, and then we'll have to come back and revisit it in like 3 days, and make sure that the queen and bees can do their things. We just have to give them sugar water.
Thank you to all our mentors of the last 2 months who've helped us work up the courage to this moment. We'll keep you posted.
See ya.
Wow. How exciting is that? And the whole time I'm thinking, Dana, your wrist is exposed.
Well, we may have had a little incident last week. I took a few stings to the arm, had a bit of a allergic response, but we learned from that experience, and in keeping with our conversation, we just should not have opened the hive that close to sunset. If anybody out there is a real beekeeper, has been doing this for any length of time, I'm sure you already know that and are wondering why we didn't know that. So, hadn't crossed our mind in the moment, and now we will be a little more thoughtful when we open those hives. They were already settling in for the night. They were keeping their queen warm, and they were mad at us when we opened up their house and let their heat out, so they attacked. But usually every other time we've ever opened, they've been so calm. So I don't say that to plant fear. Don't be scared to get into beekeeping. It's just maybe research a little bit, times of day not to open your hive.
It is quite the setup that you have. It looks very sophisticated. And you mentioned your mentors and where you got it. Is that like a starter? I mean, that looked like the Mac Daddy kind. I mean, I know you guys do everything with excellence. I would not gather that that's like the starter kit. That's probably like, where does that fall for someone that's wanting to invest in bees?
It actually was a starter kit from Maple Bend Bee Supply. So
Wow.
it is an initial decent investment, but I think as long as our intention was that if we can keep it alive through the winter time until next season. Then we can start harvesting some honey next season.
You can recoup, the average amount that usually you can harvest from a healthy hive. You can recoup most of that initial startup cost once you get through that first year and a half.
I love that. I know where I'll be getting my honey because, it is in the same geographic area. And for those of you that do not know, and Dana alluded to it, if you are going to use honey for medicinal reasons, especially for allergens, you want to get it within, 50 miles? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I really don't know. I just know the closer, the better. So I don't know, but that sounds appropriate.
I believe it's 50 to 70 mile range. And so, I get some that's not very far from me over here in Manchester, but this is literally in their backyard. It doesn't get any closer than that. And so anybody that knows them from the Middle Tennessee area, I am going to encourage you, when they do start producing this, you are going to sell it, right?
Oh, we haven't gotten that far in like a big old, business plan or anything. We're kind of just enjoying it, but we'll see what the Lord provides and hopefully be able to share with some friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So how much time does it take to maintenance something like that? How much weekly, every week, what do you have to do?
During the season, really, you're only supposed to get in about once a week, according to what we've researched and what we've who we've learned from. But so really, it's once a week, and then during the wintertime, it's just making sure that they have food to last and sustain them through the wintertime.
Gotcha. Wow, that's amazing. So how many bees? It looked like there was mass quantities of bees. Do you even know how many bees were in that starter?
Yeah, it's supposed to be around one queen bee to 3 pounds, which equates to about 10,000 honeybees.
About 10,000 per hive.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. I love it.
One thing you have to keep in mind is having a water source for them, like a fresh water source nearby. Isn't it supposed to be like within a mile?
Yeah, within at least a mile.
Like no further than that. So that's something good to keep in mind. But otherwise, you want to keep an eye on like how they're developing their honeycomb. Sometimes we go out there and we'll scrape off honeycomb that's being built out in areas that it shouldn't be being built out. Or I think, one of our mentors was telling us in a few weeks, it'll be time to treat for mites, just something you have to do every year in the fall with them to keep them healthy. And there's, more organic or healthy ways to do that we hope to pursue. We'll try to keep ours as natural as possible. So yeah, a couple of things like that you need to look out for maintenance. But overall, like Adam said, so far, it's been pretty low maintenance. I think it's just the more hives you were to acquire, it would definitely be a little more hands-on time checking on them.
That's amazing. Is it a complex thing to treat them for the mites, or is it pretty minor?
Well, like we said, we're kind of taking it a step at a time. We haven't done that yet. So we're actually, our mentor, Joe offered to come on out and just show us how that's done. So he's going to actually come and just walk us through that when it's time. But I think it's pretty straightforward. You just have to know which products to use and how to apply it correctly.
I love the fact that you guys have had mentors with this. So for those of you watching and you're saying, that's something that I can't do, listen, education and having someone that's been there before you is going to help you go a long way in your homesteading, whether you're gardening, whether you're canning, whether you're sewing quilts, whatever you're doing. When we say homesteading, it's a very broad term for a lifestyle of living holistically or as self-sustainable as possible. So I absolutely love what you all are doing. If you could leave the audience with a key, what would that key be?
I think what we've been talking about, something that's been coming to mind, didn't know we were going to be asked to leave the key. So thank you for the opportunity. But I think the verse that, one of the verses that I always grew up being told to lean on by my parents and my grandparents is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. And with the whispers of the Holy Spirit turn of last year, right before things turned upside down for the world, it was right before that happened that the Lord was saying, prepare in new ways and just trying to be obedient in those small steps. Even though we didn't understand and we didn't know, we still don't understand all, and we still don't know all of how to do what we're trying to do, but just trying to be obedient with all of our fault, all of our shortcomings, all of the things we just don't quite do right. we're just going to keep trusting in the Lord and trying to do a step at a time, and trust that He's always going to be our provider. He's always going to be the one that orders our steps.
That's so good. I love that. If we could just live by that Proverbs 3:5-8 scripture every day, that is amazing. Adam, do you have any big projects you're working on right now? Are you building anything right now?
Right now, I'm just trying to replace our fence, because when we got the bees, we were moving our fence out to the property line just to give ourselves a little bit more room. And so right now I'm replacing the front of that fence, since it's a new design. And then hopefully we'll be getting some sort of shed or storage building soon so we can get a greenhouse started.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm going to come on site at that time and film again, if that's possible, because I would love to show your above bed gardening strategy is so amazing. I absolutely love the one in your yard. I love the one you built for your mama. I mean, it's just such a good structure, and it's so much better on the back.
And I'm so thankful that he can do all of that. I think it saved us so much weeding, headache, and things we probably wouldn't have done very well keeping up with. Neighbors on our road trying to grow squash, for example, they're always talking about their squash bugs that are getting into their plants already this time of year. And so far so good. We have 30 or 40 butternut squash out there that are ripening, and they haven't been affected. And I really think it's because they're 3 to 6 feet up off the ground, on trellises and in raised beds. And I think that's just really helping. So any little thing you can do like that to set yourself up for a little step ahead, I think is a good idea.
And I don't have pictures to show the audience, but I love the way that you took the prior fence post and you created garden opportunities around those. So you can do so much with just what you have. I love that, the scripture, and it talks about what is in your hands. What is in your hands today? What can you do today to make your tomorrow better for not only you, but the next generation? Adam, Dana, I want to thank you for taking the time of being on the broadcast.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
It has been so much fun, and I look forward to the new projects coming down the pike. For those of you watching, catch us here next time on Keys to Your Best Homestead. God bless you.